Okay, so last video was about the issues of urbanisation and what comes up, and this is actually a document that the Australian government has come up with to try and address some of the issues in relation to urbanisation and moving population in Australia. I'm going to just sort of skim through it and just show you bits and pieces from it. So I'll give you the link so you can actually see it. But you can see here that they're looking at a few things. They're going to manage the growth in our cities, but also invest in the regions. So they're talking about looking at pulling people to stay in the regions versus, just everybody moving to urban areas. One of the things I think is quite interesting is roads of strategic importance and urban congestion fund. So roads are apparently a solution to both. If roads are easier in the regions, then people will live in the regions. If roads are easier in the city, it makes life easier in the city. One of the interesting things about this, though, is that they're actually looking at the infrastructure aspects. So you can see they've got the infrastructure aspects here, but also the social and economic aspects. So here we've got the economy here, but then down here, they're also looking at the community aspects. So that's that social thing that goes on. And here you can see they're looking at the safety as well. So you can see how the government is looking at the issues as per your assignment, that there's infrastructure issues, there's security and safety issues, social issues and economic issues. All right, so you can see that they're actually following that model. I'm going to skim through some of this. Okay, so here you can see this is a nice sort of graphic. It's an infographic because it contains information and it's in a graphic format. So you have got here that you've got 64.1% live in cities of 1 million plus people. So that's Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane basically. I'm not sure whether Perth and Adelaide are over 1 million. Sorry, I should have checked that up. And then you've got cities of 100,000 to 1 million. Now this includes Canberra. Now it's interesting here that they've got cities of 10,000 to 100,000 because the ABS doesn't consider 10,000 to be a city. So that's kind of interesting. So this is where the government is interesting about how they don't quite match policies across different agencies, and that's always interesting. So you can see here they've got the population growth map. That's not dissimilar to what I've shown you before, and you can see that they're mapping where the growth is there. All right, here we've got what drives population growth, and again you can see it's sort of the overseas immigration here, and that's a larger percentage nowadays than natural increase, and it's kind of always, well not always, but it is quite frequently the case. So you can see here, and then this is this stuff that we've talked about in class. We haven't done temporary or permanent migration. So these are things like students come in. Remember, higher education is actually our second or third largest export, and so that's actually students coming in to study, but then they go home again. So you can see here, this is how it's talking again. It's an infographic again. It's showing you the different ways that cities have grown. And then they go into what they're actually going to do about it. So they're talking about here urban form and access to jobs. So basically, how do we build our houses? So if we go back to the last video, we talked about how one of the issues is we've got to build more houses. Okay, so they're looking about how to build houses. Then they're talking about infrastructure, building the roads, and then they've got different ideas for different roads, for different cities rather. And so you can see that. And then they've got all the urban development that they want to do in order to keep jobs happening, in order to keep growth happening and all that sort of thing. And then this is just that goes on and on and on. You can see all this. But you can see how they're addressing the same issues as what was raised in the other video. It's housing, it's infrastructure, it's jobs. I do want to keep going, sorry. Here it's talking about the regions and how it wants to keep the regions happening. And this is, you see, what attracts people to the regions, right? So this is these pull factors and the idea that we can actually pull people back to living in regional Australia and all that sort of thing. So, they've got ideas about that. And then this is this community stuff that they were talking about community aspects and addressing some of this, some of the issues that arise from urbanisation, which is that conflict that can exist by having people living with a lot of differences in one place and all that sort of thing. So this is talking about the diversity and how we support people to adapt to life, which is quite an interesting idea. And that's the whole document. I just wanted to show you that there were solutions that the government was putting in place. We're going to be doing a bit of work in this in class about whether or not these are good solutions, because you've got to come up with solutions for your assessment.